it had, like, eyes, like, I could see, like, white things where its eyes should have been.
I think it was like kind of human structure, and the eyes were like, I can still feel the eyes, like it was like totally like a human eye.
Topic 57. Shadow People Beyond the Darkness.
Unlocking the Soul, a podcast hosted by Rob Simperman and produced by Simplify Films.
10-year-old Johnny woke up in an unfamiliar house in the middle of the night. First he was just confused, but then his eyes came into focus on something horrifying. He saw two white beings standing by his bed. He felt they were coming for him with nefarious intentions. He was sure of it, in fact. He tried to move, but he couldn't. He tried to cry out, but he could only feel his shouts being garbled by his unresponsive jaw muscles, as the rest of his paralyzed body lay there inert. It was a moment of sheer terror he would remember his entire life. But then the true picture resolved before his focusing eyes and his sharpening mind. He recognized the room and remembered he was spending the night at his grandparents' house. One of the white beings he perceived was actually a white robe hanging on the back of an ajar closet door. The other was his grandmother, who was checking in on him as she walked past the door on her way to bed, wearing a white nightgown. That was my brother's story from many years ago. But you may also have indelible night terrors that you try not to think about, even now. That's because, according to the Cleveland Clinic, 30% of people experience at least one episode of sleep paralysis in their lifetimes. And about 40% of those people experience visual, auditory, or tactile hallucinations, or otherwise unexplainable perceptions at the same time. For some, it includes an out-of-body experience or astral travel, which is something I always try to achieve if I notice sleep paralysis. Others, like my brother and another man I'll interview in a few minutes, experience something terrifying. Some are apparent alien abductions. Some even perceive being sexually assaulted by a demon, as in the stories of incubus and succubus that have been told for centuries. I personally know of one such victim. Now, isn't that a convenient explanation that the medical community came up with to explain away a huge category of potentially paranormal phenomena? Imagine that, all sightings of ghosts, aliens, shadow people, loved ones, near-death experiences, and everything else could be explained away as a quirk of the mind in its paralyzed body. They even have a term, hypnopompic hallucinations, which is defined as vivid, dreamlike experiences that occur when your brain wakes up, but your body is still in the temporary paralysis of REM sleep. Now that's a feature that keeps you from acting out your dreams. And this can be accompanied by vivid hallucinations. As the brain is trying to make sense of this strange state, it can project shadowy figures into the environment. And they say that factors like stress, sleep deprivation, or certain sleep disorders can increase the likelihood of experiencing sleep paralysis and these accompanying sensations. Now that's interesting, because in a recent video of mine, I conclude that the physical brain is primarily a world-building machine working on behalf of our souls. And when it's cut off from sensory inputs, or the feed from our shared so-called matrix reality that we're all plugged into while awake, it goes right on building dream worlds for you to experience. So this medical description is plausible and somewhat consistent with how we dream, and clearly explains my brother's experience, where his sleepy and paralyzed eyes planted the seeds of the perceptions. But we're here to unlock the soul. So what's the other explanation that we need to consider? Now I have to hit my big red button.
It's the frequencies, stupid.
It's always the frequencies. The big idea is that there's a buffer frequential plane, sometimes called the fourth density, between the third density Earth and the fifth density, or the higher planes, where our higher selves or souls and other ascendant beings reside. In this fourth density, we have some low-energy beings, such as energy parasites, confused souls that aren't ready to leave their carnal pleasures and addictions of the 3D Earth behind, and most of what we would call ghosts, whether confused souls not ready to move into the light, or our loved ones coming back to pay a visit. And when we spend time in that gap between awake and asleep, the so-called hypnagogic state, we resonate more with the fourth density and can often perceive the entities that reside there. or we can travel outside our body. But for now, let's keep our focus on the shadowy figures that so often appear to those upon waking. Some common descriptions I've been told about include that their appearance is typically dark humanoid silhouettes without distinct features, sometimes described as wearing hats or cloaks, or we'll hear from my guest today, glowing eyes. Yet they're often seen at the periphery of the vision, lurking in corners of the room, standing by a bed, or even sitting on the person's chest. The witness feels intense dread, fear, a threatening presence, or a sensation of pressure on the chest. And they are fleeting. They often disappear or dissolve when the person tries to focus on them or fully wakes up. They can include ghosts, or cat or alien-like creatures, and their actions can be seen as innocuous, as simply approaching the bed, or as nefarious, as molesting or trying to kill. But what are they? Are they paranormal entities, spiritual messengers, or something rooted in the complexities of our own minds? Next, I want you to remember the medical definition that links these hallucinations to sleep paralysis and not being fully awake yet. We'll hear from someone who has had no sleep paralysis and felt fully awake during his encounter. So next, we're going to hear a first-hand account of a fascinating, if not horrifying, shadow experience encounter. We're going to meet Saurab Gupta. He's a financial analyst at one of the largest companies in the United States, and he's worked at several. And he's going to take us back to a time at Valparaiso University where he's getting his master's degree. So, Saurab, please tell us what the time and place were, what you experienced, and what your emotions were at the time. Just walk us through it.
I was doing my master's degree, and it was a summertime, and nobody was there in the dorm, and I used to stay in a dorm in Valparaiso University. And then it was a late night. After the incident, I looked at my phone, and it was like around 2:30 or 3 or something like that. And so what happened was I was in a deep sleep, and then there was some noise, and then I got up, and then I just look at my side on my left. I see a shadow, and then as soon as I turn around, I see on the right side, it's up in the ceiling on the right side. So I was scared to death. I could see the eyes, and it was lighting up, and then within a blink, there was no one, and I was like, "Damn, what just happened?" Then I called one of my friend, and then I was like, "Hey, can you just stay by for like an hour or something? Because I feel like I have a nightmare." But till now, I can still remember the shadow looking at me and staring at me, and I was like, I was all sweating at that time, and I was pretty nervous, and I couldn't describe the incident to anyone. And this was my first time talking to Rob, as he brought up this like any incident that I faced in my entire life, and this was the first time, and hope it's the last one because it's really terrifying for me.
Can you tell us more about the shadow itself and the eyes especially? What did they actually look like?
So it was more like the shadow was like, I think it was like kind of human structure, and the eyes were like, I can still feel the eyes, like it was like totally like a human eye, but it was more like lightning eye, like than a normal human eyes. So yeah, that was pretty much.
And looking back, what is your current thought on what it might have been?
It might be a dream or something, but I don't think so because I was awake and I could still see a shadow on my left and then on my right on top of the ceiling. So it was a human creature, seems like a human creature, like human shadow and a human eye and a lightning human eye.
And what emotions did you feel?
I was terrified. I was sweating now. And then I was scared for a while because I was all alone. Nobody was in the dome as it was summertime and everyone left the dome to their family's house and I was alone. And I was about to leave for like in next 2 days. And because I wanted to have my dome myself just to feel the environment. How does it feel? And like, yeah, that incident happened and I left like within like next 2 days or within the next day, I guess.
And nothing ever similar happened to you since?
Yeah, nothing happened after that. That was my first time and my last time. I hope I don't want that anything to happen again.
Thank you for sharing that experience. And I know there's people out there that have had similar, and they would surely feel more comforted knowing that others have experienced it. In fact, I have a member of my own family who's experienced a sighting of shadow people and was not willing to share on camera. So I'm sure hearing others describe this event will bring comfort to others. So thank you. So Saurab felt fully awake, had no sleep paralysis, yet continued to see a shadow being with glowing, almost human-like eyes crawling on his ceiling. Now that doesn't seem to fit the medical explanation to me. So in a twist, after the interview, we actually found that there are legends of a haunting in that very dorm. The Alumni Hall in Valparaiso has been known to have frequent sightings of two twin girls that would be either running down the halls or be encountered in other ways in their ghost-like form. So just saying that adds a little bit of credibility to another possibility that there really are some otherworldly beings that are inhabiting that physical location. But it's hard to be convinced by a single occurrence or witness. So we'll try to get an even spookier and harder to explain tale from another of Saurab's co-workers. It's a first-hand account, but this gentleman didn't want to be on film giving his account, so it's retold here. This is a story that some of you may remember from a previous episode of mine, but it's extremely relevant to this topic. Meet Hari, a friend of mine for several years. He recently confided 2 relevant stories to me from his time living in India. Hari lived in the Kerala region of India before moving to the US. When he was in his 20s, he started seeing a dark figure in his bedroom every time he woke up. It would last up to 10 or so seconds and be as clear as day. A smaller black figure beside him, or moving about the room, or floating near him, even resting on top of him when he opened his eyes. He'd shout to his parents, who lived in the same house, but they could never see the figure, even while he still could. Other times it was a larger white figure rather than the smaller black one. This went on for about 2 years. Now, Hari refused to see the psychiatrist his parents suggested because he didn't feel like his mind was the problem. But he did agree to visit a local energy healer. This man never asked Hari what the issue was, nor was he told. But he laid his hands on Hari, and without any way he could have known, he explained to Hari and his father that he picked up the spirit of a young girl and an old man. It happened while taking a shortcut through a normally deserted patch of forest, inadvertently touching an object on the ground that these souls were attached to. The healer laid his hands on Hari again, presumably raising his vibration to such a frequency that the spirits could no longer attach. Hari never saw the figures after that day. The witnesses we've heard from so far saw shadow people either during the night or soon after they woke up in the morning. But my final witness saw something very different. This is actually my own son. He and his friends saw shadow people in the middle of the afternoon at a party, and multiple witnesses saw the same thing. So Reed, tell us what you and your friends saw at that party last year.
About a year ago, I was at my friend's house for a birthday party. We were the last 2 people there after everyone else left. We were in his basement watching a movie of some sort. And all of a sudden, the lights started flickering on and off, and the TV turned off. Everything just went dark for a second, and light, and kept repeating that for 2 seconds maybe. I looked behind me, just out of superstition, and by a dartboard he has, there appeared to be a tall, shadowy figure. It had eyes, I could see white things where its eyes should have been, and it had a white line where its mouth should have been. It was kind of smiling a little. And my friend apparently saw it too. I didn't realize it until a few seconds later when he told me what was that. And we didn't really think much of it, just trick of the light maybe. Until maybe a minute later, the lights flickered again. We saw it right near us, maybe a few feet away in the corner. We didn't even have to turn our necks or anything. And it wasn't just out of the corner of our eyes. We could see it like most supernatural things, looking at it head on. And we could see it clearly. And we thought that was frightening, so we ran up to his parents, who were in the upper level, and we were like talking to them about what we just experienced. They thought we were just overreacting and the lights were just flickering, but it didn't flicker for them, and they were just like watching TV too, I think. And everything was completely fine for them until their dog started looking into a random corner. There wasn't a piece of furniture there. It was a complete empty corner. It was just looking there for no reason. It's normally a very active dog, always like playing around with you, and it was just still sitting there looking at the corner. The lights flicker. We see the figure again in that corner, and it starts like the dog starts barking and stuff. And then like their parents, my friend's parents, they knew something, like they felt something was there, but they didn't like know for sure. Like they didn't see it, but they like felt there was something there. So they were a little on edge after that too. And we then retreated to the kitchen because we were scared of that room then. And then the light started flickering there, but we didn't see it. I don't know what was happening. It wasn't a storm or anything. It was just clear day. And he was telling me a story about like 2 years ago maybe, that he saw this white shadowy figure, not the black ones like we were seeing, walking down his driveway at like 3 a.m. or 4 a.m., just slowly walking down there. And it looked like his neighbor, but before it was walking towards his door. He then went over there, like to his front door, and his, I think, brother was looking out the window too. And he went to the door. There was no one there. He went up to his brother, who was watching where the figure came from, and it said it never left. Like, it never walked back up the driveway. So it was probably still at the door, but he just checked the door and there's nothing there. So they knew this house was probably had like some like ghosts or something then. And then what happened at his birthday when I was there just proved their point. The kids hear footsteps sometimes at night. I hear that too, but my dad says it's just the house settling. And yeah, that concludes my story.
So today we explored the multifaceted nature of shadow people, from the chilling tales whispered in the dark to potential spiritual interpretations and the fascinating insights offered by Western medicine. Many believe these shadowy figures are spirits, perhaps lost souls, or even something more malevolent, feeding off our fear. In some spiritual traditions, dark figures might be seen as negative energies, or even tests on our spiritual path. So what do you make of all these enigmatic figures? Please share your own experiences and thoughts on shadow people in the comments below, or go to simplifyfilms.com and you can chat with me there. And join us next time on Unlocking the Soul as we shine a light into another captivating mystery. Until then, keep your minds open and perhaps keep a light on tonight.